So since I started this channel, the most requested series for me to review, since I do series all the time on here, because I'm an OCD lunatic who has to see every film in a series. If there was ever a movie that had a sequel, I have to watch it. But the most requested one on here was the Final Destination series. So let's get to it. It's time. I've seen them all before, all 5 of them, a couple times actually. But so far I have watched 3 for my reviews. So let's get to all 3. And then obviously I will do 4 and 5, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Something that I've always thought is kind of, an interesting thing is that Tony Todd is technically the face of this franchise. Like, this is his series. He's in part 1 and he's in part 2 and he's got a voice in 3 and pretty sure he's in 5. I don't think he shows up in 4, but like, he's the reoccurring character that's in, a good amount of these. Although, the argument could be made that Ollie Larder, she is in the first and the second. And she plays a main character in both. So I guess if it was just the first 2, then definitely it was her series. But Tony Todd is a famous, iconic horror guy. And so I don't know. I guess I always look at this as another one of his series, like a Candyman or whatnot. But that's not the name that comes to mind when you think of Final Destination. Like, if you're talking about it enough, you'll be like, oh yeah, and Tony Todd's the, mortician or whatever. So anyway, let's move on. This series really is, I know almost all horror movies are about their kills, but this series really, truly is all about the kills. And I really think that the level of gore in this series as a whole is grossly understated. It is one of the most gory series that America has. Like, the first one isn't super gory. I was surprised going back and watching it and being like, oh, this one isn't as gory as I remember. But as I said, I've watched 2 and 3 since, and we'll get into those. But there's a lot of on-screen, no holds barred, no shying away, fucking mayhem. So I love the kills in this film and in this series, sorry. And that is like the best part of this whole thing. I could watch 50 of these. I just love this series. It's so much fun. And I actually had to look up what this was called, because for a minute I was like, a domino effect? What the hell is that thing called? Like how Pee Wee Herman has his bed set up and like makes his breakfast, and then at the end of Waiting they have that whole big thing. It is called a Rube Goldberg machine. I had no idea that's what it was called, but I actually had to Google it to figure out what one of those contraptions is, those big machines that like they push this down and that slides here and it breaks this open and that goes down. That's basically what Final Destination is. It's a very elaborate Rube Goldberg machine. I guess Death loves those. And the question I guess I have to pose here, this is something I really want to say quick here. A lot of what I'm going to say in this film, I'm not going to repeat for the other ones. And since a lot of these are, all of these are very, very similar, you're going to see the majority of what I have to say about this series in this review. So this is definitely the review to watch for the Final Destination series, since there's so much repetition in this series. Not in a bad way, because I really enjoy it. It works for me. But as I said, I'm going to say a lot of this. I'm not going to say it again in the next few, because that would just kind of be redundant. But anyway, why does Death, I don't know what does this. What is giving them their premonitions? That's really where I'm kind of confused about this whole thing. Is Death showing them this because it's bored and it wants to fuck with them and it wants to come up with more elaborate Rube Goldberg machines? Like, I don't understand why they're even bothered to be shown this stuff. Like, the lucky ones in this movie die on the plane. The lucky ones in the second one die in the car crash. The lucky ones die on the roller coaster and on the bridge and, the race car track. Like, basically all they are from here is just mortified, scared out of their minds, trying everything they can to survive, and they all die. Every fucking one of these movies, every single person in them dies every time. The movie always ends and they just die. And it's like, what's the point of them even seeing this? Like, if it's not death showing this to him, it's showing this to them and being even further a dick, then whatever is showing this to him is even a bigger dick, because what's the point? You're not saving anybody. In fact, we'll get into part 2 later. Anyway, moving on. I do like a lot of dialogue in this film. I thought there was a lot of really, really funny, like literally genuine laugh out loud moments from some of the characters in this. I like the Hare Krishna dude who tries to give him the pamphlet and the thing. It just reminded me very heavily of, Airplane, when all the different religious people are trying to come and he's like punching them and pushing them. I love that scene, and just reminded me of that and made me smile. We have Devon Sawa in this film, which is someone who's basically just disappeared off the planet. But in the 90s, we had Devon in an awesome horror comedy, Idle Hands, and of course the awesome, fantastic SLC Punk. I heard he was recently in the Punk's Dead SLC Punk 2 thing, but I never actually saw that movie. For some reason, that just never had much interest to me. I'll probably see it one day. But it was cool to see him. Now, this movie came out 1 year after American Pie. And it was very weird to see Stifler, who is like the, macho jock dickhead of my high school. Like, this was like the William Zabka of my movie watching when I was a high school student. I was like 18 years old, 17, 18, something like that, when I saw American Pie, and that was just such a big movie, and Stifler was that dickhead, bully, dumbass. And then to see him in this movie as the dork who couldn't defend himself against Kerr Smith, it was just like, it was too much. I get it, it's acting, and but then like from there on, he did like The Runaway, and he did all his, where he's like a buff dude and he's kicking ass. And in this movie, I mean, I guess American Pie probably hadn't even been released yet by the time they started filming this, so they were just like, he's Billy Hitchcock now. He's a geek. He plays it well. I'm not going to say he doesn't. He does. He sells that he is this nerdy kid, but like under that outfit that he's wearing, that he's like a pretty buff macho dude. So this must have been a pretty big stretch for him. The foreshadowing and the music really do build the atmosphere throughout this entire series. Like, there's so much foreshadowing. This movie is foreshadowing Rube Goldberg machines, awesome kills, next, rinse, lather, repeat. Which, as I said, it totally works for me. I never get bored with this shit. And it's something that happens in every one of these, and it's just something you just kind of have to look past. And it's so apparent in the second one, but this one too. When the plane takes off and they're up in the air, and the amount of time that passes for them being up in the air, and he's looking around in the cabin and everything's starting to fuck up and this and that, it's like a couple minutes long. And when you see them watch the plane take off off the runway, it blows up in like 5 seconds. And that happens at every one of these. The length of time between like what their premonition showed, it showed a lot longer span of time, and then it just takes off and it blows up instantly, and you're like, that wasn't his premonition at all. But as I said, it's just something you have to look past. What are they going to do? Just sit there and watch the plane for 2-3 straight minutes? It would have been boring. So speed it up, but I still can't help it kind of laugh about that. Another person who shows up in here is Daniel Roebuck, somebody who, never really got any credit. You see him here and there throughout a bunch of shit these days, but I was a huge fan of the movie River's Edge with Keanu Reeves, Crispin Glover, Dennis Hoffman. Whoa, I don't know where I was going with that one. Excellent movie. He's like the main villain, I suppose, in that movie. What a fantastic fantastic film that is. So I couldn't recommend that high enough. But seeing him here, seeing him in anything, it always takes me back. And Ali Larter, which Ali Larter is a beautiful woman, and she looks great in the second one, and she even looks good at the end of this one with her blonde hair. But I don't know, there's something about her with this brunette and the shorter bangs. She does not look good. She looks weird. And, you know, I felt bad for her character. I mean, her dad got shot in the face when she was a kid, and then this plane blows up, and everyone's parents show up, and her mom, who's off with this dude that she doesn't even like, doesn't show up, and she has to get a ride home, and you never see her parents throughout the movie. They just aren't ever home. Like, no one gives a shit about this girl, to the point where even in the second movie, she's just off and in an insane asylum, and nobody cares. Like, girl had a seriously fucked up life. Devon Sawa's friend who gets hung in the shower. I like how he goes to shave without shaving cream. And I guess he's a kid and he hasn't shaved much, but yeah, you're gonna cut yourself every single time if you do that. That was pretty stupid. A lot of fake out possible death scenarios within this movie, which I think is cool because it if every single one of them started to happen and then it just killed him, you would know it was coming every time. But because there's a bunch of fake outs, it does kind of keep you on the toes. Like, is this the one that gets him? And then it doesn't happen. And you're like, yeah, but you know it's coming. Like, what is going to happen from here? And then it happens. And I'll see you soon is like the most fucked up thing for a mortician to say to you when you leave his office and he's sitting in front of a dead body of your friend. Like, I'll see you soon. I don't know why. Like, when I saw that, I was like, you dick. Like, he just does not care at all. One thing I never noticed, I mean, maybe I noticed it years ago, but I noticed it this time, was that Carter, the badass who has the muscle car and fuck death and all that, no one's going to tell him how he's going to die. When he gets saved by Alex, he pulls him out of the car, and you can clearly see he has pissed his pants. They make no mention of it at all. They don't show like anything else, but just you see his pants pissed while he's talking to them. And I just thought that was funny. I like that it's just a small detail. Like, blink and you miss it kind of stuff. Like oh shit, he pissed his pants. There it is. I don't remember that, but I always like when decapitations take place above the head. Like, mostly, obviously, they always cut off here, but Billy's gets cut off across through the mouth and chops this part, and he's just got the jaw left before he falls over. That's actually one of the most brutal kills in this film. It's probably my favorite one because it looks the best. And when Alex goes to save Clear Rivers, not only was her life fucked up, but she had a total hippie, stupid name like Clear Rivers. I always thought it was Claire the first time I saw the movie, and then when I saw a thing like in maybe the credits later, it was like Clear Rivers. Jesus Christ. But when he's going to save her and he goes and he grabs the electrical wire, I think he could have grabbed further back, like went maybe 10 more feet down the thing and just grabbed it and pulled it away, and it wouldn't have shocked him. So that was pretty stupid. But it doesn't matter anyway because they're all dying regardless. So anyway, that's what I have to say about the first Final Destination. Let's move on to the second one. As I said, I think these are just going to have less and less to say about them because a lot of these films are very, very redundant. All right, moving on.